basically, if you don't know KCARD, we're the Kentucky Center for Ag and Rural Development. We're an independent nonprofit organization that was designed to provide business advisory services to ag-based and businesses and farmers across Kentucky 20 years ago. Very thankful for the Ag Development Board and its continuous support over the last 20 years. We've received support from USDA over that time period as well, some other funding pots as well. But it allows us to work with those farmers, those ag-based businesses to grow your economy, become that diverse. Good. We provide a wide variety of services from business plan development, basic business development needs, record keeping, whether that be setting up a spreadsheet for the first time, or working with QuickBooks for the first time, or trying to organize your files, record keeping assistance, funding strategy. What are the best opportunities for you to fund? You've got this dream, it's a reality. Now, how do we fund it? What are the best sources for that funding? We're not going to write your grant application, but we will review it. We're not going to write your loan application, but we will review that, help you with that business plan to get you that money. One of the things that I enjoy the most is just on-site consultations with owners and management teams, or on the phone, sitting down in their back office, talking with them. Hey, we've got this issue going on, and then being a sounding board for them, and hopefully providing some ideas for them to how to address those problems. Also, we do marketing assistance and financial analysis. We're not CPAs, mind you, but we do have a mindset where we can look at your financials and figure out where some holes are, where some things that you can do better at, what you can do better. As far as clients, we work with everybody who's got this great idea to as mature as you can be. We've got a client that's been, that farm's been going on for over 140 years. So we, anywhere in that spectrum, we've done work in. And if it's agriculture based, we've talked about it. Whether it be grain, as traditional as a grain elevator, feed company, to dairies, to lavender farms, to alpacas, we've discussed it. If you thought about it, things I've never heard of or thought about, we've talked about it. We've been very active in dairy and value-added dairy, and I've got 10 clients right now who are engaged in some form of value-added dairy. Sorry, 11. I just thought of another one. 11 clients that are doing value-added dairy. So we have experience on staff. We want to work with you. We want to help you out. One thing that we like to say at KCARD is we're here to support you. We don't have an agenda. Our agenda is helping you. And we're not going to make the decision for you, but we try to help you make an informed decision. If you come to that table and have the information that it's informed, we feel like we've done our job. Now, Carolyn might make a decision. I go, what is she thinking? But at least I talked to her about it first. At least I can say, I'm not sure this is where it's going, but but I trust faith that it goes forward. And normally, the great thing about Kentucky ag people is they make things work even when it shouldn't work. So now, there we go. Now, when you're thinking about starting, when you're thinking about starting, a new value-added business, there are some questions that you really need to be thinking about. How much milk is going to be processed? How much milk do I want to be processed? What's my volume? Because that determines kind of what markets you can play into. Secondly, if you're just dairying now and you're thinking about doing something value-added on your own farm, what's your milk buyer going to think about that? Will they allow you to keep some of that milk and not? Or will you lose your contract as soon as you start processing? You need to be aware of that before you have those engagements, because guess what? Even if you try to hide it from them, they're going to find out. If they don't want to allow it, but that's just, that's reality. You have to know that going in. What product do you want to make? Wide variety of different things in the dairy industry that you can make, from cheese to butter to ice cream to milk. There's advantages to all of them. There's opportunities in all of them. But which one do you think fits your marketplace? Which ones do you think fits your skill set? There's trade-offs between all of them. What volume did you need to use? Where are you going to market that product? Be thinking about how you're going to market. Are you talking about doing an on-farm store? Are you talking about doing farmers markets? Or do you want to do wholesale? If you tell me you've never done anything and you plan on being in Kroger once you start, I'm probably going to laugh. Because guess what? It's really hard to get in Kroger. Now, we've got people who've gotten there, but it's a long road to get there. You talk to Dave Maples and the Cattlemen's QB Solutions, and he'll tell you, Brent, it took us a year every day working on that project to get that ground beef in Kroger. It's hard. It can happen, but it's hard. Right, Bob? The cheese didn't happen overnight that y'all have got in Kroger. So, who's going to manage the creamery or the plant or the milk processing plant? Does that person have any experience? Who's going to be involved in it? Men, don't just assume your wives want to do the record keeping for your plant. That happens all the time, and then you talk to the wife, well, I don't know anything about record keeping, Brent. I don't want to do that. It happens a lot. I'm not sure when this happened, but it happened. But be thinking about who's going to do these things. Do you have any experience there? It's not so simple. You can't just learn it on the fly. What are those regulatory requirements? Talk to, in Kentucky, talk to the milk safety branch to see what needs to happen. Your health department can help you, but lots of times your health department's never dealt with another value-added dairy, so they don't necessarily know all the rules. The milk safety branch is there to help. Another thing is, where's the plant going to be located? And then does that location meet all the regulatory issues? Do you have access to water? Do you have a wastewater plant in place at that place? Do you have three-phase electricity? Because guess what? More than likely, that equipment you use is going to require use of three-phase electricity. Be thinking about those things when you're thinking about where you're going to put it. If you're going to have people on the farm buying things, is where a store connected to the creamery, is that the right location, parking-wise? There's lots of things that you need to be thinking about as you get started down this avenue. There we go. Now, there are some key steps along the way as you start your journey or while you're doing your journey. Set goals. Be honest with yourself. Do your research. Business plan. Funding and launch. Go ahead and hit the next one. It's so important on whether you're starting out or existing to constantly set goals. Always know what your goals are. As Warren B would say, dream big. Do those things. I'm not good at that. I'll be perfectly honest. I'm not good about setting those long-term goals for myself. But it's really important that you do that. And then also, once you set those goals, put blinders on. Because guess what? There's going to be other opportunities come to you all the time. But if those don't help you get to your goal, get them out of the way. If an opportunity comes or this other stuff, junk around you happens, and it's not helping you hit that target, and that's still your target, then maybe you need to just ignore that and stay focused. It's very easy to see all these other opportunities. I mean, I've got a couple clients every time I talk to him, he's got a new idea, and I'm like, Justin, just think of one thing and follow that. Everything you've mentioned is great, but you can't do all of them. You've got to put blinders on. And once you put your blinders on, do everything you can to hit that target. That's your goal. Be proud of that. Now, also, make sure your goals are specific and can be measured to know when you've hit them or not. Don't just say, well, we want to be the premier dairy. Well, what does that mean? But if I want to say I want to be making 500 pounds of cheese a week or 500 pounds of cheese a month and selling that through my store, you can measure that. You can see if you hit that or not. Or I want to be getting $30 a pound, $30 a hundredweight for my milk as a result of this venture. That's a goal that can be measured. Those are things that you can put down in place. Yeah. Now, okay. We'll see if I don't break it again. Honest evaluation. Still one of your lines, Brian. It's important to inventory your assets. Well, you are one of your assets and your farm is your asset. Inventory it to realize what you're good at. What are your skill sets and capabilities? If you're thinking about setting up a value-added dairy operation that's big on agritourism and you're going to do tours, but you hate interacting with people, that's probably not a good idea. And trust me, I wish I was lying. I mean, we get those. You know, you got to have that right skill set. Know what your skills are. Be honest about what your farm is. Know what it's capable of. You know, understand that. If you're thinking about a farm store, are you comfortable with people on your farm? That's a different feeling when you're with your farm and there's people just walk. Because guess what? You might say, stay in this area. It ain't just kids who break the rules. Adults break the rules too. You're going to look up and there's so-and-so wandering through the pasture. You have no idea how I got there. Are you comfortable with that? Are you comfortable with them all of a sudden walking around your house, looking in your window, seeing what your house looks like? It will happen. You have to be comfortable with that. Have that a feeling of yourself. Know what you're comfortable with. What's your level of risk? How much risk are you willing to take on? And how much risk do you know your credit or can you afford to take on? What is your liability issues on your farm? What will your banker go for? You know, if what you're proposing is going to require a $3 million loan, and you know the banker's not going to give you over $100,000, well, guess what? You've got a problem there. But, you know, understand where you're at there. Be very honest with yourself. Sometimes that's hard to do, to be honest evaluation of your farm. But you have to know where you're at and what you're good at before you go forward. Next, do your research. It's so important. Let's see. There we go. Do your research. And there's lots of the research that you need to do. A, look at what's going on in your industry. If you're thinking about making cheese, look at what's the trends are in cheese. What's going on that impacts that? If you're looking at bottling milk, what's going on there? Is it the local food movement? Is it this issue? What's impacting? What are consumers buying? You have to really understand what's going on there. Understand if you're going to, where you think you're going to market it, what's there? What's the demographics in the area? What are the key factors going on in that marketplace? Very basic research, but really understanding what those are. If you're thinking about marketing a premium product that's going to command a lot, but you live in a low-income area, you might need to be going outside your marketplace to market your product because you're not in the right spot. You have to understand that. Customer preferences. It's so important. Know what the current, who your customer is going to be and what they prefer. Because chances are good the person who buys most of your product didn't grow up on a farm like the rest of us did, doesn't grow in a rural community, and they have, you know, your market might be going to be Lexington, Louisville, Bowling Green, Nashville. Well, if they've never been on a farm, they've got different values. They shop differently than us, you know. I never will forget the conversation I had with a lady who's going to start marketing beef. And she said, you know, Brent, you know, we have the best roast. I went, well, good luck with that. Good luck selling that. Well, all my neighbors love roast. I'm like, yeah, you live out in the country. Y'all still make roast. Well, 2 years later, a year later, I talked to her, Brent, we can't get rid of these roasts. I went, yeah, it's because that's what, go to the store. Know what people are buying. Go outside your marketplace. Go to the stores. Go to Whole Foods. Go to a Kroger in Lexington. See what's on the shelf. See what people are like. See what packaging requirements people are using for packaging. Talk to buyers at retail stores. Talk to chefs at restaurants. See what their preferences are. See what they're looking for. Even if it's early on, even if it's in seed basis, because sometimes those chefs or buyers like to feel like they're part of you. They knew you from the beginning. They feel like they're part of the story. If their input was used in developing your product. Now, think about their demands and time when you contact them. Don't contact the chef at 12:30 on a Tuesday during lunch hour. Don't contact the chef at 6 o'clock on a Friday night and expect him to call you back. Chances good, if you get a hold of him, he's going to cuss you out and you're never going to talk to him again. But they do have downtimes, 2:30 in the afternoon. Lots of times there's a downtime. That's a good time to talk to them. Wholesale buyer. Don't call anybody on a Monday morning because the world's on fire. You're trying to take care of it. Mid-afternoon, middle of the week, they probably got some time to talk and want to talk. Know when they're available. Be thinking about that. If you've already got a customer base, if you're already doing things, talk to your customers. See what they like about your product, what could be better about your product. In, do formal surveys, informal surveys. Figure out a way to get feedback and take that feedback and use it to make your product better. Competitor analysis. Know who you're competing against and be honest about assessing them. Not what you think about them, but what does everybody else think about them? Yeah, you know, well, I know so-and-so does this. Well, you know that, but what does the customer know about them? What are they good at? What are they known for? What's it going to be hard to get into? Equipment. Know what your needs are. We got more tools than ever to figure out what in various resources, from food safety branch to KCARD to university resources who can help you figure out what equipment you might need, or who those equipment providers are, and call and talk to them. Lots of times those guys want you to succeed as well, and they're trying to sell something, but they'll also give you, if they really do care about you, they'll give you some honest feedback. You know, I know the Frank Kipe at Micro Dairy Designs in Maryland. If you get a hold of him, you're going to be on the phone for an hour, because he's going to talk to your ear off, and you're going to learn a lot about it and what you should have been thinking about. And other equipment providers are the same way. Visit other dairies who are doing this, and go outside this state. See what else is going on. Talk to them. Figure out. Go talk. Think about making cheese. Go talk to Bob and say, hey, Bob, what am I missing? What should I be thinking about? Think about making ice cream. Talk to Terry Rowlett. Talk to Carl Chaney and say, hey, what have you learned? What do you need to do different? What should I do different? Thinking about bottling milk. What do I need to think about? What are the things I hadn't thought about? What are the packaging? What are those things? Just, you know what? The great thing about farmers is we all recognize we're in the same boat together, and we want to help each other out. Especially if you're not going to be a direct competitor. They want to help you out, and they'll take the time to help you out, because most of them got the same help when they got started. Finally, do your research on the regulatory issues. In Kentucky, talk to the milk safety branch, talk to Frank Jackson, talk to Brian. Figure out what the key issues are there. Figure out what those other food safety issues are that are driving the marketplace. Understand what those are. Thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't know there was going to be that. You might get into it, oh my gosh, this is a mountain of paperwork that I don't think I want to handle. Maybe I don't want to do this. Or, oh, I can handle this, but don't get in the middle of it and there's, oh, we got to do this too. Don't be surprised by those things. All right, next, get a solid business plan in place. KCARD can help you with this. We have a business plan development guide, but you don't have to use our guide. But when you put that plan in place, make sure, think about your mission. What are the values you want to have? And update your business plan as you're going forward. Think about, what are your goals? What do we want to stand for? What's our marketing plan? Who is our target customer? What are their wants? What are their desires? What's my product? And what's special about my product? And how does it meet the needs of those customers? If you don't understand why your product is valuable to that customer, you need to really assess yourself and be thinking about that, because that's how you market your stuff. What are your sales and promotion strategies going to be? Are you going to do farmers markets? Are you going to do on-farm store? Are you going to do wholesale? Are you going to use social media? What are you going to use to promote your product? Understand what the industries are. Chances are good, if your target, if you don't understand social media, you probably need to learn it. Talk to Carolyn Combs here if you need to learn something, because she's as good as it gets is doing social media stuff. Instagram, Facebook, all those things are important. If you don't understand them, if you have kids, talk to your kids, because I guarantee you they know what it is, and they can explain it to you a lot better than me. So that's how I'm learning things now as I go. I just turn to my teenage kids, and they help guide me. Know how you're going to do that. And if you're going to, farmers markets is a great way to be a sales strategy to get grassroots, to spread yourself out and develop a grassroots customer base that allows you to grow. I think about Kenny's Cheese and JD Country Milk. I think they'll tell you that they were both instrumental in developing their customer base that's allowed them to grow their customers over time. And it's very important to be thinking about how you're going to do that. Next, what's your business structure going to look like? How are you going to be owned? What's your ownership going to be? I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to pretend to be. There's various business structures you should look at, but always seek legal advice to make sure you have the legal protections that you need to have. Personnel requirements. Who all is going to be involved in operating the business? Who's going to do what? What are the skill sets needed? How are decisions going to be made? Who are people going to be responsible for? And finally, have financials. Estimate those startup costs. Do those projections that show, all right, this is what the cash flow looks like. Break it down. From that, understand, okay, for us to break even, I need to sell X amount pounds of cheese, or I need to sell X pounds of milk. I often think that you can probably, it's always good to have somebody else review that or help you develop that business plan. Just because it's an objective person who can help you do these things. Funding is, once you've got your startup cost, also make sure you're not just looking at hard costs when you're getting started, or make sure you've got enough working capital. One of the things that we've seen many businesses that have launched in the value-added world or other diversified areas, but they didn't have enough working or cash in the bank when they got started, because guess what? You're not going to make money on day one. It's going to take a while. You better make sure you got some money to operate, to continue to operate. If you're looking at making cheese, you're looking at probably aging that for a few months before you start making money. So how are you going to fund those things? How are you going to operate in those times? So make sure you've got those funding. I've got possible sources up here, but there's others out there. As Brian mentioned, the Ag Finance Corporation, Ag Development Board, state and county money. For small projects in the state, you got the KSU Small Farmer Grant, who can do up to $5,000 or $15,000, depending on your project, on some value-added stuff. Go to your banks. Look, you got mentioned the value-added dairy grant that was recently announced. It's a wonderful opportunity for dairy right now that's not been available before. Look for those opportunities. When you apply for when you hear about a grant, always look at one key thing is, what will they fund? Because lots of times they're not necessarily going to fund what you want it to fund. And B, what's the eligibility? Make sure you're eligible, and make sure if you're looking to build a building, then obviously this new grant's not for you. If you're looking for equipment, it's not there. There's the USD Value Producer Grant that comes around every year. That's for working capital. But if you need it for equipment, it's not there. But if you need it for marketing purposes, for supplies, for distribution expenses, it's a great 50-50 grant. Well, actually, this year with COVID, it was even more than that. But it's a great opportunity to get some working capital funds into your marketplace. But beware of those. There we go. There we go. Now, you've done all your homework. You got your money in place. Now, the real fun starts. You actually get into business of running a value-added dairy business. Guess what? Be ready to adapt, because you're going to put a lot of planning in place, and 6 months into it, it's not going to operate the way you thought it was going to in your dream world. Be ready to adapt to those circumstances. Remember what you were thinking about, why you made certain decisions. That's why the business plan is important, because make sure you've thought about things and go, all right, we assumed this was going to happen. It didn't, so how do we adapt? Or we thought this was going to happen. We know we were going, we knew in our cash flow projection we were going to be short on cash this month, where we were supposed to be. What's going on? Make sure you identify key performance measures that you're monitoring on a regular basis once you've launched. Just because there's money in the bank doesn't mean you're successful. Just because your sales data on that day was this is fine. When I call somebody and say, hey, they doing fine, how things going? They said, well, our sales today was this. I said, well, that's great, but what were your expenses? What was your bottom line? Be thinking about some key ways for you to measure your business. It's unique to your business, but it's also important. When I can tell on myself here, 20-something years ago, I was managing a vegetable cooperative. And we shipped out more cabbage the first year I was there than we'd ever shipped out before. I was so proud of the co-op, and look what I've done. And then we did the numbers, and we didn't make a blessed dime at the co-op. Farmers did well, but there were one or two key things I wasn't tracking on a daily basis. Guess what? I might not be the brightest boy in the world, but I ain't going to make the same mistake twice. Next year, I put a couple of things in to monitor a couple of those things. Next year, we marketed 2/3 the cabbage we did the year before because the weather wasn't as good. So our farmers didn't do as well, but the co-op made more money on cabbage than it ever made before, simply because we made adjustments as the day went. We knew where we needed to be on the labor. And when things were bad, I went to Adam and said, hey, what's going on? He goes, well, we had that one bad, that lot came in today, or oh, I didn't realize we were slow, and we picked things up. So you have to monitor those things, and some things have to be looked at on a constant basis. You can't wait till you do your taxes to see how you did. You've got to make those adjustments quickly. All right. All right. Thank you for your time. Are there any questions? I'll be here throughout the day. I'll be here the rest of the day. If you don't think of them now, I'll talk to you during break or at lunch. I will leave, but I would love to go up to Cheney's, but I've got to get home tonight. And plus, you know, they're tired of seeing me. I'm out there so often. So